Wonderful humans, welcome to our very first webinar as part of the Next Gen Awards for 2024. My name is Sophie, and I am so excited to be working with you over the next hour as part of our How to Showcase Your Skills Masterclass. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is uncovering some strategies to help you showcase your skills, your talents, and your experiences with confidence. But before we dive into the content for tonight's session, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians and owners of the land on which we gather and pay my respects to all elders, past, present, and emerging. So welcome. Again, my name is Sophie and I am a program coordinator and lead facilitator at BOP Industries. To give you a little bit of background about how I ended up working at BOP Industries, after I finished high school, I went and studied a Bachelor's of Fine Arts, majoring in drama and film. Throughout high school, I absolutely loved musical theatre and all things creative. And so this degree was the perfect place for me to hone in on those creative skills and work on some incredible projects in the film and theatre spaces. But I knew I wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to inspire young people to pursue their own creative passions and pursuits. And so I ended up studying a Master's of Teaching in Secondary Education shortly after I finished my Bachelor's. Through this degree, I learned a lot about curriculum, I learned a lot about the art of teaching, pedagogy, and of course, how to inspire others to be creative, curious, and to have a lifelong love of learning. And that's why along the way I found BOP Industries, and I've continued working there ever since because it is very much at the core of what we do at BOP. We are looking to inspire young people to think big, to think different, and to think outside of the box. And that's why I'm extremely passionate to be working on the Next Gen project, because that is very much the kind of student that we are supporting. We are recognizing those students who are unique, who think uniquely and differently, and we are helping them achieve their success by giving them the tools and support along the way. So I'm really excited to be working with you tonight, but also throughout the remainder of the Next Gen process. So with tonight's masterclass, we are going to be teaching you how to present your talents with confidence and introducing some strategies to really help you take your approach to the next level for things like job interviews, award nominations, and grant applications, but also beyond. So by the end of tonight's masterclass, we will have enhanced your writing skills. We will have interpreted and understood how to tackle criteria. We will have gained some tips for job interviews and just in general presenting. And then finally developed a really strong understanding of your personal brand, because that's so important when it comes to these opportunities. You have to understand who you are and what your passions and skills are in order for you to convey that to others. So the Next Gen Awards are a national awards program which is designed to showcase the next generation of top young talent. Entries for the awards are open to all Australian primary and high school students and their teachers, with 6 different categories on offer. And those categories are the Young Innovator of the Year, the Young Entrepreneur of the Year, the Young Leader of the Year, the Innovative Educator of the Year, the Next Gen of the Year, and the Dream Team of the Year. So if you'd like to find out more about the Next Gen Awards and which categories best apply to you, you can head to the link on the screen. And of course, you can submit your submissions through this link as well, because applications are now open and will remain open until the 15th of July. So make sure you get your applications in. Remember, you can nominate yourself or you can nominate someone you know. And as entries are coming through from across the country, we are incredibly excited to be releasing the lineup for our industry leading judges. So you can head to our website to find out more about the people who will be reading your applications. We are very honored and privileged to have a diverse range of judges from so many different industries, career pathways, and organizations. So I would highly recommend you head to our website to find out more. And we have to say a huge thank you to our sponsors. We could not have free webinars like this or run an event of this caliber without their continued support. So if you would like to continue supporting them, you can support us by supporting them and head to our website to find out more about these incredible organizations and the amazing things that they do. They are so invested in supporting young people in their journeys and career pathways. So head to their websites to find out more about what they're doing and how you can get involved. And that brings us to the very first section of our webinar tonight, which is looking at your writing skills, strategies for helping you elevate your writing. So when it comes to award applications and writing written applications for jobs or grant applications, essentially what it is you are trying to do is to convince the reader to pick you or to choose you for whatever it is you're applying for. And that is essentially a form of persuasive writing because you are trying to convince the reader to take on a particular point of view and to take a specific action. For example, you're trying to convince them that you're the best candidate for this job and that they should hire you. So, you guys are probably really familiar with persuasive writing from your time in school. You know that it's a very specific style of writing. There's a lot of things that you need to do, lots of tips and tricks to really ultimately have that logical argument with lots of reasoning, lots of supporting evidence, and a strong, compelling argument. And in case you aren't as familiar with persuasive writing, some great examples for you to look into and maybe have a little bit of a think of how they structure those texts are things like advertisements, opinion pieces you might see in magazines or in newspapers, and speeches. Any speeches you see on television or on social media, they are excellent examples of persuasive texts. And so when you are applying for awards and grants, it's a really exciting time. It's exciting because the outcome of you getting the job or getting the funding or getting the award is a really awesome opportunity. But it can also be a little bit daunting. Mainly daunting because there are a lot of things for you to submit and there's a lot of requirements, and that can sometimes feel overwhelming. But as a member of the Next Gen team, we have read a lot of applications over the years, and we are happy to give you a few tips and tricks to really help you craft a compelling nomination or a compelling submission. So, when it comes to things you should do, make sure you write concise sentences and give enough detail. So, oftentimes when we read applications, we have these sentences or responses to questions or prompts that read like paragraphs, even though it's a sentence. I think people often get confused that more words means more detail or more understanding. Sometimes it's actually the opposite. More words can lead to more confusion and can actually lose your reader's attention. If you think back on statements and phrases that have really made an impact on you, they're more likely to be really short, sharp, and punchy statements that had the most impact. So, my big piece of advice to you guys would be try and keep your sentences concise. Obviously, you can't keep all of them concise, but if you can have more shorter sentences sprinkled in between your response, that is going to be a really great way for you to make an impact and to make your message clear to the reader. Secondly, is to include photos and supporting materials. So, if the opportunity arises for you to do so, please make sure you do. One thing about submitting photos and supporting materials, I mean, the age old adage is a picture is worth a thousand words, and that rings true for awards and grants. If you have something like a business plan or you have a presentation, a portfolio, whatever it is, it really shows your commitment to your project, to your business, to your initiative. It actually serves as a piece of evidence for all of the claims you're making throughout your written response. And it shows a level of dedication to the grant or award or job you're applying for because it shows that you put in the effort to compile these things together as another piece of evidence for your application. So definitely, if that opportunity is there, take it. awards and grants and things, they have very strict word counts. So the more you can add in without saying things and, using those very precious words, the better. And finally, reading the criteria and seeking clarification if you're unsure. So, awards and grants and those sort of things typically have a set of criteria that you have to meet in order to be eligible for the award, or things that the judges or panel are looking for when they are awarding that money or accolade. And it is very obvious when people haven't read this and they submit their response, mainly because they either are not eligible for the award or the grant, or because they haven't tailored their responses to the things that the judging panel is looking for. So, my biggest piece of advice would be actually taking the time to really read it and not skim it, but read it properly, highlighting key terms and being super across what is asked of you and tailoring everything that you present to that criteria. There might be a few things that you're a little bit unsure about. If that's the case, my advice would be to reach out to the organization and seek clarification. Ask questions, give examples of what you're confused about, and see if you can find an answer that way. Not only does that maybe eliminate you from making a grave mistake with submitting your application, but it also shows great initiative on your part. You were confused about something, you asked a question, and you got that clarification rather than just going ahead with your application without seeking that understanding. And then, in terms of things that you should avoid, my biggest tip would be don't procrastinate and give yourself plenty of time. I'm sure this is something you've heard before in many aspects of your life, but this definitely rings true for award applications. People are often surprised how long it takes them to write about themselves, to write about their accomplishments, to write about their experiences and projects and businesses that are very close and personal to them. And so, not only are you doing the writing part, you're reading the criteria, you're getting all of your information together, all of your supporting evidence and photos, you're writing it, you're rewriting it, you're proofreading it, and you're getting someone else to read it and then fine tuning all the details. That's a lot of steps, and that takes time, especially amongst everything else you have going on in your life. So, the more time you can give yourself, the more confident you're going to feel in your application because you've got ample time to complete all of those steps and to make sure everything is perfect. The second thing would be don't focus on the quantity, really prioritize the quality. What I mean by that is we have the pleasure of working with students who have achieved so much during their schooling career. It's really incredible everything that they've been up to. And while we really want to hear about your achievements and everything that you've done, it is really important that you pick the things that link most to what you're applying for. So, for example, if you're applying for something like a business grant, something that has to do with, a business that you've started or a business you've been a part of, and you're listing um, some accomplishments that you have from primary school in relation to sporting or music. Whilst they're really great accomplishments and definitely things you should mention at various points of your life, it's maybe not applicable to this particular instance. And so, my priority would be to reference things that relate to my business, particular achievements within the business, or things that link to business related skills. For example, communication, perhaps, or collaboration. And so that would be my priority, especially when it comes to awards and grants. You have such a limited word count that you can play with. You definitely want to prioritize the things that will shine the brightest in your application. And then finally, my last piece of advice would be don't forget to proofread and have someone else read your work. Even if you're not that skilled at things like grammar, spelling, punctuation, rereading your work, you are bound to pick up at least one or two things that could use a little bit of a fix up. And as well with that, even if you're not so gifted in those areas, reading it aloud is super helpful, I've found as well. Because when you read things aloud, if there are some issues with grammar, particularly, you're going to pick up on them when you are reading them. You'll think to yourself, that doesn't sound quite right. Maybe I should go in and fix that. And then from that, you might get rid of some things that maybe didn't make sense. As well, if you have the opportunity, definitely get someone else to read your work. A fresh set of eyes is always the best thing you can do for your applications. You've been reading it plenty of times, you're very likely to gloss over something that needs a bit of fixing that someone else might pick up on. That could be your friend, it could be a sibling, it could be a parent or a guardian, or even a teacher at school. Now, as well, when you're crafting these nominations and submissions, a very important part of this is the topic sentence. This is the first thing that your reader is going to see. And what you need to do is make sure that your topic sentences really serve as a cornerstone for each of your responses to the prompts or questions and provide a very clear roadmap for the question posed by the awarding body. So, some of my top tips for this include when you're writing your topic question, make your topic sentence, make sure in your very first sentence that you are addressing the question, the prompt or question that's right above it. You'd be surprised, a lot of people don't do this. And a great way that you can do this is by making sure you're using and repeating those key words. So, if there's a word or a couple of words that are very much highlighted in that prompt or question, make sure you're reusing those and incorporating them in your topic sentence and throughout the rest of your response. And finally, make sure you're clear and concise. So you definitely don't want your topic sentence to be too long. You want it to have impact. So make sure you avoid unnecessary elaborations that may detract from the main point. Your topic sentence is really covering your overall point that you're going to elaborate on later. So make sure you don't have any of those in your topic sentence. Keep it really clear, summarizing your overall argument. You can talk about the rest of the stuff later on. So what we're going to do is actually read a sample question and response for an award application. And I want you to see if you can identify at least one or two things wrong with this response. So the prompt that we have for you guys is please describe a specific project or initiative that demonstrates your leadership skills and innovation in your field. The response that we have is, in my opinion, I think I am a good leader and have done a lot of innovative things. So I'm going to give you guys roughly 30 seconds or so to just have a think in your head, or you can even jot down some answers if you have a pen and paper handy on what one or two things wrong with this response. All right, guys, so I'm going to hand over to you for roughly 30 seconds. Have a go and see if you can find them yourself. All right, guys, I'm going to pause that one there. I'm sure you found that plenty easy. The next activity that I have for you, though, is to see if you can practice writing your own. So now that you found one or two things wrong with that sample topic sentence, I want you to have a go at writing your very own topic sentence. Remember the key rules and tips. Remember to try and be concise while still having an impact. So exact same prompt as before. Have a go at writing your own. You can have a think in your head, or again, use a pen and paper if you have it handy. All right, guys, over to you. All right, guys, hopefully you went well with writing your topic sentences. Again, these are completely hypothetical scenarios, so you may not have something that is specific to this prompt, but it's just a great way for you to practice writing a topic sentence and practicing those key skills. All right, so I've actually come up with a few different examples of topic sentences up here on the screen. Definitely feel free to pause and have a look at this one in your own time. But yeah, these are just some examples of how you can be quite clear, really summarizing your main points that you would elaborate on later, and just having that impact and answering the question in that topic sentence. So we're going to do the exact same thing now, but we're going to be looking at concluding sentences. Now, concluding sentences are just as important as topic sentences as they are the final words that your reader will uncover. And so through these, you need to reinforce your qualifications, you need to emphasize the significance of your accomplishments, and you also need to leave that memorable mark, make that impact. So my top tips for your concluding sentences would be: make sure you reiterate your key points. Summarize everything that you've been talking about in the body, all of your achievements, and make sure you highlight that through your concluding sentences. Making sure you're leaving a lasting impression. So if you can have that really craft a very memorable closing statement, so something with powerful imagery or language, if you can, it's not necessary, but it is a really great way for you to make that statement, and try and keep it as short and as sharp as you can to have that impact. And finally, if you can, connect it to that mission and objective. So whether that's the criteria for the grant application or for the awards, or again, connecting it to the question, or even if you know the values of the organization, that is awesome. Making sure you're connecting it to that broader picture for those judges to really get why you are perfect for this award or grant. And so what we're going to do now is take a look at another example. So again, exactly the same as before, I've come up with a sample here. The sample prompt for this one is: please describe the project you are seeking funding for. And then the response is: with your support, I hope to make my dream of owning a restaurant a reality. So what I want you to do, again, 30 seconds, have a little think in your head or write down some notes. What are one or two things wrong with this response? All right, guys, I'm going to hand over to you to have a go. Hopefully you guys went well with that one as well. And exactly the same as before, we're going to practice writing our own now. Again, try and remember those key tips, leave that lasting impression, and reiterate and summarize all of those main points. Again, this is completely hypothetical, so those main points can be whatever you would like in this instance. But yeah, really have a go at writing that lasting impression for your readers. Okay, team, I'm going to hand over to you to have a go. Alrighty, team, I'm going to pause that one there. Hopefully you came up with some really good concluding sentences. Again, same as before, I've got some sample responses up on the screen if you'd like to take a screenshot or pause the video here to see some strong examples of some concluding sentences. Now, If you're still thinking about the writing component, you're still a little bit stressed about it, there are some great digital tools that you can use. So, one I would recommend to you guys is Quillbot. Quillbot is an AI powered paraphrasing tool which is designed to help users rewrite or rephrase sentences while maintaining the original meaning. So it's not one of those digital tools where you pop in your text and it completely changes the tone and loses what you're actually trying to say. It is really good in terms of using natural language processing and machine learning algorithms to understand the context of the text that you paste in and generating that alternative phrasing. So it is a really great tool just to help you elevate your writing that little bit more. And it helps with things like summarizing, plagiarism checking, and it's also a great grammar checker as well. So if you'd like to check out Quillbot, just head to quillbot.com to help you with your writing. And another one that I have for you guys is the Hemingway app. So this is a writing tool which is designed more to help improve your clarity and effectiveness of your writing. So the app again analyzes your text and it provides some real-time feedback on readability. And it mainly highlights things like if you've got a lot of complex sentences, which can be difficult to read, passive voice, adverbs, and other areas for you to improve. And so this is a great one as well if you're a little bit concerned about that clarity and really resonating with your audience. So definitely head to hemingwayapp.com if you're interested in checking out this digital tool. And so that brings us to our next section of our masterclass, which is mastering the art of job interviews. So we're going to talk through a few techniques that you can use to ace every interview and help you land your dream job. So job hunting can be quite a competitive landscape. And in order for you to succeed, it's really important that you understand what employers are looking for, what they're seeking in their interviewees. Now, if you can master these key attributes, it's going to help you enhance your performance in your job interviews. It's going to help you feel more confident, and thus it's going to help you increase your chances of securing your desired position. Now, this is broken down into a few key elements and things that employers have said are really important to them when it comes to hiring a new employee. So the first thing we're going to look at is making a good first impression. So there's quite a few things you can do to achieve this. You can arrive early, 10 to 15 minutes early. You can dress appropriately, do your research, and maybe buy some new things for your wardrobe. You can remember the golden rule of interviews, which is the interview starts as soon as you leave the house or as soon as you turn on your laptop, whichever one works, whether you're having in-person or virtual interviews. This just means you have the demeanor and presentation that you would for an interview from that very initial moment to ensure you're set up for success. You can bring relevant materials. So if you need to bring your resume or other printed qualifications or have everything prepared in case they need it from you. You can greet your interviewer with confidence and be very conscious of your body language. All right. And then when it comes to articulating with confidence, this is something that employers are certainly looking for. And there's a few ways you can achieve this. First and foremost, you can actually prepare and practice. Even though interviews, you don't know the questions ahead of time, you can actually jump online and do lots of mock interviews on YouTube. You can look up interview questions. There are even some apps out there which lots of previous employers or previous people who have been interviewed by this company list questions that they have been asked on an interview, which might help you with your interview. And you can use those and actually start practicing your responses to those questions. Even if they aren't the exact same questions, practicing your response, practicing your interview demeanor is something that's going to set you up with success and help you articulate with confidence. Secondly, you can know your strengths. So by actually taking the time to understand your skills, understand your experiences and what your superpowers are, you can really highlight those in all of your responses in your interview and have them at the ready for everything you're asked. Thirdly, you can speak slowly and clearly. Oftentimes when we go to interviews, we're nervous. And so we tend to speak a lot faster than we should. And by actually taking a moment and being conscious about your words and your pace, you will slow down, speak more clearly, and that will be perceived as speaking really articulately and with lots of confidence. Remember to be authentic as well. Even though job interviews are a high stress situation, you don't have to be this super serious version of yourself. Definitely, you want to maintain professionalism, but you can be yourself. You can be bubbly, you can be lighthearted, you can have fun. Make sure you do that because the more you do that, the better you will be perceived. You can always use positive language, especially when you're talking about your skills, your experiences, and of course, talking about the role that you're applying for. That always comes across really well. And then asking for clarification if needed. So if you are in an interview setting and you're asked a question that you don't fully understand, make sure you ask a question to clarify that. There is absolutely no shame in doing that. You're better off doing that because you will understand the question better and be able to respond to it better rather than being confused and giving an answer that doesn't match up with the question itself. Another thing is the well thought out responses. So, this again is something that you can definitely practice. So, if you actually could practice your interview skills or answering interview questions with a friend, you can seek some feedback as to maybe some things that you missed in your responses or things that you did really well that you should continue to do well and keep striving for in other instances. Also, you need to make sure again that you understand the question and seek clarification if you're unsure. Another way you can ensure that you have well thought out responses is again pausing and reflecting. When an interviewer asks you a question, there's no shame in waiting a couple of seconds to actually think about the question, process, and then speak. That is completely fine and it will help you have a better thought out response. Making sure you tailor your answers to those key requirements and skills. Prior to going to an interview, you've read a job ad, you probably know a fair bit about what they're looking for from you, what those key requirements and skills are. And the more you can interweave those into your responses, the better. And that will show that you have put in a lot of research and a lot of thought into your responses. Remember to highlight all of your experiences and skills. And of course, stay positive and professional. Now, when it comes to professionalism, this is a term that we hear a lot, but it means a lot of different things to different employers. So, I actually did a little research, and these are some of the top attributes that employers associate with professionalism. So, maybe take a moment to pause here, a screenshot here, and do a little bit of research of your own to figure out how you can actually make sure that you have all of these attributes in your toolkit. And when it comes to talking about your own interests and passions in a job interview, this is definitely something that employers are looking for now. They're trying to make sure that you're a great cultural fit for the company and that you'll mesh well with your personality with the rest of the team. So don't feel like you have to be super vague with your interests and passions if they do ask you about them. Don't feel like you need to just say, oh, I play sports on the weekend. No, tell us more. Tell us more about why you really like that particular sport or why you like that particular hobby, how you got into it, so on and so forth. This is also a really great way for you to leverage your skills. So again, you can connect your hobbies to your skills. You can emphasize how playing team sports is a really great way for you to practice teamwork, leadership, problem solving. You don't have to overdo it, but it is a really great way for you to tie in the two together. And again, don't be afraid to show your personality. People tend to prefer others who are easy to read and who are authentic. In addition, it'll help you make really great rapport with your interviewer. And if you're really anxious about something like this, talking about your personality in a situation like a job interview, you can definitely have a little bit of a practice on how you would respond to this question. And so, what one thing I'd like you guys to do for homework after today's session is I'd love you to have an interview question practice. So, what I want you to do is practice answering the question, why aren't you boring? This is a question we ask on all of our BOP interviews, and we've had some pretty great answers over the years. So, it's a very confronting question at first, some people might find, but really what it is trying to get from you is a bit of an insight to your personality and to your skills. So, if you could have a go after tonight's session, give yourself a minute timer, see what answer you can come up with on the fly, and definitely feel free to tell us what answers you have to the question, why aren't you boring? And lastly, another thing that employers are looking for is not only how you respond to the questions, but what questions you have for them. Employers find it really, really valuable when their interviewees have questions for them about their organization. Now, I've got a few examples up on the screen that you could use. These are pretty generic ones. Again, it is important that you listen during your interview because some of these questions might have already been answered. And if you can do a bit of research ahead of time of your interview, you might find through your research that you do have some questions for your employer or for the interviewer about the organization, about the role. But some ones that are always good to use are: what are your expectations for me in this role? Can you tell me about the team I'll be working with? And what are the company's plans for growth and development? So those are a couple examples. Maybe some will be applicable to you, maybe not, but it's always a great idea for you to have a couple questions in your toolkit that you can ask at the end of the interview when they say, "Do you have any questions for me?" All right, guys, so that brings us to our very next section of the session, which is persuasive speaking. So we're going to be talking about the persuasive elements of public speaking, of course, for job interviews, but beyond that as well. So pitching skills and job interviews are actually quite connected because at its core, a job interview is essentially a pitch. You are trying to sell yourself as the best candidate for the position. And so here are a few different examples of how those two come into play. So first of all, you're crafting a narrative. You're telling the story about you. You're talking about your unique value proposition, so how you stand out from competitors. You're using some effective communication. You're answering questions. You're talking back and forth. You're building rapport. You're trying to connect with your interviewer. And finally, you're handling questions, spontaneous questions that you absolutely have no preparation for, and you're handling them like a pro. And so when you're preparing for public speaking engagements, whether it's a job interview or any other situation, it is crucial that you consider those persuasive speaking elements to help you engage your audience. So remember, if you can practice these skills, maybe not in the exact context every time, but practicing them in general will help you build confidence, allowing you to really leverage things like your body language and your hand gestures to convey confidence during your speaking and also help you captivate your listeners. So, in job interviews, one of the best things you can do is mastering your tone variation. It's an incredibly powerful tool because it helps you get the attention of your listener, but also convey your message effectively. So, there's a couple different ways you can do this. Of course, when you're talking about your qualifications and your achievements, your experiences, you want to be really confident with your tone. You want to have a strong and assured tone. But then you might want to tailor your tone to suit the context of your conversation. So if you're having a serious discussion about obstacles you've overcome or something like that, then you might want to change up your tone when you're talking about things like your hobbies or you're talking about what you got off to on the weekend or anything like that. So making sure you utilize that tone variation as much as you can to suit the context and to help you sound confident. The next thing is body language and hand gestures. So these are two separate speaking elements, but they work together and they can help your speech become more engaging. So whether you're talking in a situation where you might require notes, if that situation arises when you're presenting or something like that, and you need to use notes, I would recommend that you use palm cards always over an A4 piece of paper or an iPad or a computer, just because it allows you to be more flexible with your movement. Now, regardless of whether you're using notes, your body language is super important. You want to appear confident. The very best tip I can give you is remember, stand up straight, shoulders back, and act as if there's a string pulling you from your sternum all the way up to your head so that you're standing nice, straight, and tall. This will help you project as well, but also makes you appear to be much more confident and very assured in yourself. Again, hand gestures are an important element of persuasive speaking and help connect what you're saying verbally to your physical demeanor. The next is effective pauses and eye contact. So these two, again, go hand in hand. You'll find that the pause isn't as effective without the eye contact, and the eye contact can be effective, but is much better with a pause. So these two really work together. And so to use pausing for effect in a speech, a job interview, or a presentation, make sure you maintain that eye contact with your audience. Not only does the pausing actually give you an opportunity for you to really let your message land with your audience and again, help with clarity, it also gives you an opportunity to take a breath, to catch up with what you're saying. And it really helps you carefully consider your words before you express them. So that's a really great tip for job interviews, especially. Take a pause if you need a moment. It can be quite overwhelming. There's no problem with taking a pause. It helps your message land and it gives you a chance to catch up and take a breather. Perfect, perfect two in one. So, eye contact is a very critical element when it comes to engaging your audience and also showing them that you acknowledge their presence and their importance in all of these speaking engagements. Now, another activity I'd love you guys to do after tonight's session is practice the and like game. So, this game is an exercise aimed at helping us become more aware of our speech patterns, particularly how we might overuse filler words like and like. So those words can often slip into our speech even when we don't mean them to, when we are thinking or we're searching for the right word. And sometimes this can sometimes this can actually inhibit us and stumble us along our speech. And so you really want to avoid this as much as possible. And so by using a game like this, you can actually pick a topic that you know a lot about. Might be what you did on the weekend, what you last watched on Netflix, or maybe what you're cooking tonight for dinner, whatever it is. Pick something that you could talk about for 90 seconds and then try talking about it with the timer on 1 minute and 30 seconds without saying like, but, or so. Now, when you're doing this, it's great if you can do it with someone else. See if you can count how many times you've said it. And from that information, you might know that you are perfectly on track. You're not using your filler words, perfect public speaker, or maybe it's something that you need to focus on as you're practicing and preparing for public speaking engagements. Now, what we're going to do is talk about, for our final section of tonight's session, is identifying your skills. So reflecting on your strengths and aligning your skills. So firstly, we're going to take a look at our personal brand. Before you guys start stepping into applying for your grants and your job interviews, award nominations, it is super crucial that we know our strengths, our values, and our passions. Not only because these things define who we are, but they also serve as a guiding light when it comes to showcasing your skills. Now, if you're unfamiliar, your personal brand is really perfectly encapsulated by this graphic I have here on the screen. It is a place between how you see yourself and how others see you. So you're that middle circle there in the Venn diagram. That's your personal brand. And so when it comes to unpacking your personal brand, the first thing we can do is take a look at our passions. Your passions are what motivate you and what you love doing. They're the things that you could do where you lose track of time because you're enjoying yourself so much, or you can't stop them once you start because you're just having too much fun. So if you can incorporate your passions into your personal brand, that will definitely reflect who you are and what you enjoy. So what I want you guys to do is take a look at the questions below and see if you can come up with some answers in your head or again on a pen and paper and see if you can uncover your passions. So the questions I want you to think about and answer are: what topics can you talk forever about? What subjects do you enjoy the most? And what do you like doing in your spare time? All right, guys, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds or so to have a little bit of a think and see if you can uncover your passions. Over to you. All right, guys, hopefully you had fun uncovering your passions. Definitely feel free to pause here if you need a little bit more time to do this one. But the next one we're going to look at is your superpowers. So your superpowers are the things that you are good at. They are the things that you can do with very minimal effort that others might find a little bit more difficult. And that's because you're really natural at them. So sometimes you're so natural at these things that you may even struggle to identify that they're superpowers at all. So, what I want you to do is the exact same thing. Have a look at the questions on the screen and see if you can come up with some answers to figure out your superpowers. So, the first question I have for you guys is, what can you do better than anyone else? What do your friends, family, teachers think your superpowers are? And if you were to receive an award, what would it be for? All right, guys, back to you. Another 30 seconds to answer your questions about your superpowers. Alrighty, guys. Hopefully, you had fun figuring out your superpowers. I think if I were to receive an award, it would be for pop culture knowledge. I have way too much pop culture knowledge. That would definitely be my award. And for our final category for your personal brand, we're going to take a look at your values. So these are the things that matter to you. And we've listed a whole bunch of different values below. And what I would like you to do is see if you can select 3 values from this list that matter the most to you. All right, guys, I'll give you another 30 seconds to come up with your top 3 values. Over to you. All right, team, well done for coming up with your passions, your superpowers, and your values. You now have a much better understanding of your personal brand. Now, as another activity for you guys after today's session, we have come up with a little elevator pitch for you to use to really combine all your passions, skills, and values into one clear and succinct statement of what you're hoping to achieve in your careers. Now, this could be something that you put as a little bio line on LinkedIn or even on your resume. Whatever it is, I'd love for you to take a screenshot of this slide or pause the video here to see if you can have a go at using our elevator pitch template. So, to give you an example, it says, I would like to use my skills to achieve my values through my passion. And some examples we have are to use my public speaking skills to help others through technology, to use my art skills to build compassion towards animals, or to support my friends to have good health through cooking. So that is the elevator pitch. I'd love for you guys to have a go of this after tonight's session and see how it can be helpful for you in the future. And so when it comes to aligning our skills, when it comes to securing our dream job, we need to have a thorough understanding of the job description, but more importantly, how our skills and qualifications can align to it. And so it's very important that we know how to craft an application that looks at those job requirements and aligns our experiences to it in order to increase our chances. And it shows our dedication and suitability for the role. So my top tips for this is to make sure you thoroughly read the job description. Start by reading the job description before you apply. Don't just skim it. Actually look at the keywords, the phrases, and the specific qualifications that they need. Make sure you take notes of everything that is listed. What you could do after that as well is create a skills checklist. So this is your own skills. So have a think about all the experiences, all the co-curriculars you've done, things you've done at school, jobs, so on and so forth, and see if you can write a little checklist, putting them all down onto a piece of paper. Now, see if you can compare this to the job description to identify where you naturally align, to what they're looking for or where there might be some gaps. And then from there, it's a great opportunity for you to address transferable skills. So even where there are gaps, there might be cases where you lack a specific qualification or something that they're looking for in their job description. In such situations, I would recommend that you start thinking about your transferable skills. So these are things like soft skills, things like interpersonal skills, communication skills, teamwork skills, so on and so forth, that could help you get that role. And finally, thinking about the cultural fit. So, companies are often seeking candidates who align with their culture and their values. Research the company's culture if you can, search them up on Google, and see if you can figure out their culture and values and incorporate this knowledge into your application and into your interview. So what we're going to do now is actually practice aligning some skills. So I've actually got a little sample job ad listed on the left-hand side, and we're going to see if we can decode this very difficult language to understand and translate it into something a bit more essential and very simple to understand. So the first thing is looking at thriving in both collaborative team settings when working autonomously, especially under pressure. So if we translate that, we decode it, essentially what they're looking for is someone who can collaborate and work in a team. The next thing is proficiently utilize the Illustrator and Photoshop softwares to create visually stunning designs. Essentially, when we break that down, they're looking for someone with experience with graphic design and Illustrator and Photoshop. That's that one. And thirdly, demonstrating self-motivation and initiative. They're looking for someone with self-direction and strong work ethic. I'll give you guys an opportunity to pause the screen here and see if you can read number 4 and 5 and how you can break them down into the essential skills. So what we're going to do now is actually take a look at an example high school resume from Emily Harrison and see if we can align her experiences and her skills to that job ad we were just looking at. So if we take a look at Emily's resume, we know that she has 2 years experience working at a local cafe, mainly as a cashier and a barista. So from that information, we can assume that Emily has worked independently during busy periods at her cafe job. She's been able to multitask. She's managed taking customer orders whilst also making coffees, and she's been able to do that while under pressure. Now, we know that that was something that they highlighted, so that's a huge tick. We can look at her schooling experience. So we know that Emily has been a house school captain. She's a member of the school hockey team and the debating team, and her favorite subjects are biology and history. Now, from that information, we know that Emily's role as a house school captain and her public speaking experience have provided her with opportunities to use communication skills with a whole range of individuals. So that's a really great tick. She's able to communicate with lots of different people and lead as well, which is important. And we could also have a look at her volunteering experience. So she's worked as a kitchen volunteer and an aged care facility and a concierge volunteer for the RSPCA. So her volunteering experience highlights her self-motivation, her self-drive, and initiative. And in these roles, she took initiative to assist with various tasks and showed dedication to serving others, which is another huge tick. Now, these are just a couple of examples of how we can take Emily's resume, someone who may not outwardly appear like the ideal candidate for this role due to her only having an internship and not any other job experience, and how we can connect those transferable skills to that job ad. Now, what I want you guys to have a think in your head is to see if you can translate Emily's hockey team experience into a skill that we saw on that previous job ad. So she's been on the hockey team. How could we take her experiences from the hockey team to actually link to that job ad? I'll give you guys like 1 second to have a think of what it could be. I'm sure you've already come up with it. Of course. So Emily's participation in hockey demonstrates her ability to work effectively as part of a team, which we know is something that they were looking for. They were looking for someone who could work in a team, but also by themselves. And so when we look at it all together, how does Emily align for the job? She's got the collaboration and working in a team. She's got the experience with graphic design because she really has a passion for it, and Illustrator and Photoshop. Now, while she may not have extensive experience with these types of softwares, she can highlight her experiences from her internship and her ability to learn new skills quickly. She can talk about this from the internship, from her cafe, from her house captain role, from her hockey role, whatever it is that she would like to highlight. There are definitely opportunities for her to do so there. We've seen that she's got the self direction and strong work ethic from her volunteering experience, her ability to meet deadlines and to work under pressure. There's multiple instances where she can talk about those, and her excellent communication skills from her debating and her captain position. So, all in all, Emily actually works out to be a pretty great fit for this role. Even though it may not have outwardly appeared so, she is able to find some connections and alignments between her skills and experiences. And so, guys, when you are applying for roles or when you are going to job interviews, there are a couple of tools that I would recommend to you for you to look into. The first being creating a resume on Canva. There are so many templates for you to have a look at. So many templates that look extremely professional and great. A lot of them are under the free subscription, not even the paid subscription. And so you can see how someone else has structured their resume and go from there. And it has a beautiful format and a beautiful design for you to follow. You can also use a platform, Resume.io. I'm going to guess it's pronounced. You can head to that website. They've got lots of tips on how to write your resume. Again, a lot more templates, a lot of tips and tricks for interviews, and again, AI tools to help you with your resume writing. Also, you can jump on YouTube and do those interview question and answer mock interviews. You can jump online and get lots of tips about interviews as well through YouTube. It's a great tool for you to really practice your interview skills. They even have the timer allocated for you to actually give your responses. And it's a really great way for you to practice your interview skills in an awesome setting for you to do at home. Then we also have LinkedIn Learning, which has a lot of different workshops and tutorials online, virtual webinars about finding a job, how to make your LinkedIn profile stand out, how to write your resume, how to conduct yourself in your job interview, and so much more. And finally, my last tip would be for you guys, Glassdoor, which is the green icon in the right-hand corner. It is an app you can download on your phone, which actually allows you to look up companies on the app, and it'll actually even have some interview questions from previous candidates for particular roles, has a lot of information about roles as well, and the company itself. So that might be a really great opportunity for you to do your research before heading into your job interviews. So that pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's session. I want to leave you with a few tips for the Next Gen Awards for those of you who haven't already applied. So my biggest tip would be to start early. Remember, begin your application well before the deadline to ensure you have enough time to put together all of the materials you need for your application, to refine your ideas, and to really make sure you craft and create an impactful submission. Next would be to seek feedback and revise. Don't hesitate to seek some feedback from your mentors, your teachers, or your peers. It's a really great idea for you to use their input to help you refine and improve your submission to help it stand out. Remember what I said before, a fresh set of eyes can often provide the most valuable insights. Thirdly, remember to understand the criteria. Make sure you head to our website and read and understand the criteria for the Next Gen Awards. There are different criteria for each category, so make sure you look at those as well. And don't forget to tailor your responses to that criteria, because that is exactly what our fabulous judging panel will be looking for and will help you maximize your chances. And finally, don't forget to be authentic and passionate. Let your passion and your enthusiasm for your project, your initiative, your cause, your business shine through. Authenticity is the most important part for making a strong impact and impression on the judges. Make sure you share what drives you and what excites you about the project, and that will likely feed on to the judging panel as well. So before I conclude tonight's session, I do want to thank our sponsors yet again for their continued support. We couldn't have free webinars and free masterclasses like tonight's without their support. Make sure you head to our website to find out more about these incredible organizations and how you can get involved. Their websites are all on our partners page linked on the Next Gen website. And don't forget to get your applications in for the Next Gen Awards. It is a national awards program designed to showcase the next generation of top young talent. We have 6 different categories on offer. All entries are open for Australian primary school and high school students and their teachers. Make sure you head to the link on the screen to find out more about the awards and get your applications in before the 15th of July. And finally, before I go, we have another virtual masterclass set for the 13th of June. This is our Digital Influencers Masterclass, which is going to be led by our CEO and founder, Scott Miller. He is going to be talking to you about how you can build your influence on social media, grow your audience, and start showcasing your ideas as an aspiring young professional. If you'd like to attend this masterclass and you haven't signed up already, don't worry, it is free and applications for it are open. All you have to do is follow the link below on the screen, or you can head to our website to the masterclasses page to register your attendance. Remembering that's on the 13th of June. Perfect way for you guys to showcase your newfound personal brands. All right, guys, thank you so much on behalf of BOF Industries and the Next Gen Awards. It has been a pleasure working with you tonight to help you showcase your skills with confidence. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget you can watch this recording again and again to continue refining how to showcase your skills. And I wish you the most of luck with your Next Gen applications. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time. Bye.